It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
1:25 time. He joins us as he always does every Wednesday. Final time on this show.
You should be.
You should be. Don't tell me you're
happy about that. Don't tell me what I should be bloody happy about, mate.
How are those mutts of yours, pal?
They're outstanding, mate. Yeah, we're out in the park at the moment, up at Granada North. Beautiful Wellington day, and we're strolling around. Although Oliver's just done a giant pony, so I'm going to have to go back and pick it up because obviously I'm otherwise engaged with you at the moment.
Right. Do you call that one Ten Hag or Man United or Old Trafford?
The lot.
Right. I've been reading this BBC stuff about Man City and the Premier League and both claiming victory over some part of this case into financial irregularities. Mate, explain this to me. I've read this half a dozen times. I can't understand what the hell's going on.
No, do you know something, mate? I'm exactly the same as you. You try and get in, but it's almost as if it's in legalese. What my sort of takeaway from it is that the Premier League are just idiots because they haven't cleared everything with their lawyers in the first place when they put this particular legislation in place. So there's a couple of holes in it, but by reading between the lines, it looks like City may have won, got some exceptions on a couple of points, but there's loads of other things in the actual case that the Premier League have got right. So I really don't know. I mean, I think in essence, it's nothing to do with those 115 odd charges that they're facing. It's a separate one which relates to something that owners or companies associated with the owners doing dodgy sponsorship deals. So if I sponsor you, get my company to sponsor you for $5 million when it's only worth 500,000, it's a bit dodgy. So you're trying to get round the back of it by inflating the value of a sponsorship deal using these multi-billionaires companies to do it. And I think that's what the essence of the whole case is. But who's won? And it just shows you, though, really. I mean, the Premier League, they're going to struggle. If they can't get 100% win over this when it's their legislation, what chance have they got on 115 charges?
Yeah, right. I mean, we've talked about this for a couple of years. We all know where this is heading, doesn't it? It's heading towards Man City get a fine, and that's it, which is, effectively it's no punishment. This reminds me, look, there's a case when we were both working at Radio Live with the Helicopter Flight Trust or whatever it was, and some of the trustees had interests in billboard companies or something like that, I think it was.
And right, $250,000.
Yeah, for a billboard outside a pub or something, and then they were earning the money off that. I mean, and in the end it was all actually legally legit, but it was morally completely bankrupt, wasn't it?
Well, it reminds exactly. Well, I didn't think it was morally bankrupt because the money was going to a good cause. But I did exactly the same corruption many years ago when I was working for the Wellington Rugby Union. Statute of limitations is up, so I can talk about it now. But I went round all the. Remember the old poker money used to be there to fund sports and stuff, and I went round all the boozers. And I thought, well, these guys are amateurs. They're not getting any after-match functions. So I went round. I said, look, you give me 15 grand. I'll give you a bus every home game, 40 tickets or whatever, fill the bus up. But if you give me 17 and a half, I'll put 2.5 back over the bar for an after-match function for both teams. And so I did every home game. I had a different bar for all the lads to go, and they loved it. And everyone was happy, apart from the IRD or Internal Affairs, which haven't caught up with me yet.
Let us talk rugby then in that case. Your Red Roses, that's what, one loss in the last 50 games, and that was the World Cup final. I think it's 18 or 19 in a row now. But, 9 tries against the Black Ferns, that was an absolute butt-whipping.
It was, but I mean, they are. The investment's gone in there. They're obviously growing. As I've said, I think a couple of weeks ago to you, I think that the Red Roses, had they had 15 players the whole game, probably would have won that World Cup final as well. I mean, that was one out of the bag for the Black Ferns. They really sort of grew an extra leg and sort of, saved it from the fire. It was in a great effort. But if you haven't got the money, it's hard to. I mean, you look at the Farah Palmer Cup. Has anyone watched that at all? Is there any money going in there?
No.
Is it a real development path? And when you've got the amount of money that the English Rugby, the Rugby Football Union have got, it's, in this day and age where money counts and investment counts, you're always going to struggle. And I just think there's others. I mean, Canada and France probably look greater threats at the moment to England than the Black Ferns do. And I just wonder. I mean, I think it's great that the women's game has just taken off in all sorts of sports around the world. But how long will it continue to attract young women in New Zealand if they start getting pounded all the time? I think you'll soon see a drop-off.
Hey, what about your men's side? Are you going to turn us over at Twickenham?
I wouldn't have thought so. It might be, I'd imagine it'll be close. But it depends what sort of side they put out, to be honest, and whether they actually have a go or whether they're sort of going to revert to type. I thought they played well down here, to be honest, in both games.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a surprise to me, but don't forget, that was on an early season All Black side. You know, it's not the same now. They've had a lot more games together. I think and I'm not sure. I can't remember if it's the first game or not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's probably their only chance. The fact that it's the first game up, because they've got some tough games up there, and you don't really want to be facing them the last game because they've got everything together. And if they've had any other losses, they'll be extra motivated. But again, you wonder what's happening with the development of this side. What TJ going, Sam Kane going? It's beyond me, mate. It's absolutely beyond me. I can't find. What do you think?
Well, I think because they've got this 15, and I refuse to call it the All Blacks 15 because they're not the All Blacks, mate. This is a New Zealand 15 because they've got that side up there as well. It effectively gives them 80 something players to choose from. So that's where the development side of it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but wouldn't you say, no, well, pretend you're injured and we'll bring so-and-so in? Wouldn't you bloody give it a nudge and give them that jersey, or are you just saying, well, this is incentivising? I mean, I don't know. It may be working, it may be a plan of theirs. But I'd like to see Razor be more adventurous, to be honest.
I think that he's suffering a little bit from the fact that the All Blacks have already lost 3 matches this year, which in any year is defined as a failure of a year for the All Blacks. And so he's now got these 3 test matches in a row, and then Italy. I mean, let's tick off Japan as a win. And what he doesn't want to do is he end up being first-year coach losing 4 or 5 games for the All Blacks. And I think that the suffocation of that is probably influencing a lot of these selections.
Yeah, but how long by putting that ageing side out there, they know what they're up against. They've already played against them. I mean, is that going to give them any edge rather than introducing someone younger, fresher, and maybe an unknown quantity? I just don't know. I mean, and I love Razor, don't get me wrong. I think he's the man for the job. But I think maybe this is just an indication that the All Blacks on their day are unbeatable, but there's many days like Wellington where it's not quite as good as you'd like it.
No, I think you're right. And look, let's not forget, how close that we got against South Africa, but we didn't win those games. But then there's that Argentina loss, and I think the Argentina loss is the one which is actually, that defines a lot of the selections because he can't afford another one of those. And he knows that. I mean, look, the All Black job isn't one of those jobs where you can, over time, get the side right. You've got to be playing and winning test matches from the moment that you actually slip into the shoes, mate.
Yeah, very much so. And as you say, historical pressure builds on these coaches. Like you've had, as I've said before, 100-odd years of domination. And unfortunately, that sort of makes it tougher for those that come on behind there, although it does give you a bit of status if you get the jersey. And it's definitely the fear factor. And it's interesting you mentioned South Africa. Now, I think the last 3 games that they played at the World Cup, including the final, they won by 1 point.
Yeah.
All right? Now, you can say, what a great effort getting over the line. But that's only one refereeing decision. We saw in that England game.
Yeah.
But that last penalty, that wasn't
could have gone either way.
Penalty.
Could have gone either way.
Should have gone England's way. And then that's a different result. So, are this South African side so brilliant? I mean, Argentina turned them over, again, by 1 point. So, you've got to win. I understand that and I accept that, and you're legitimate winners. But I don't know whether sometimes, you can win and lose on the call of the referee. Doesn't mean that you're a bad side or you're failing at your job as a coach.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.